fighting? How do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome everyone to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here. We're here live on WYSL until 1 p.m. So if you want to participate in the conversation today, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Shout out to all of our other friends listening as well over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot down in the Southern Tier, and of course our friends listening online on the Facebook pages, on YouTube at A Free Solution, on Twitter, wherever you're listening. We're glad you're here. Of course, if you're listening online, comment in, participate in the show. I would love to hear from you. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our pages as well. All right, I think I got all my promos in. I think we're good now. All right, what I wanted to talk about today, though, is the new executive order that came out from the Biden administration that, some of the headlines have been very celebratory about we're going to eliminate the use of private prisons. In fact, the executive order is titled Executive Order on Reforming Our Incarceration System to Eliminate the Use of Privately Operated Criminal Detention Facilities. Now, there's a whole bunch of asterisks on this, but let's talk about what the executive order actually does. President Biden issued an executive order to end contracts, or direct the Department of Justice to end contracts with private operated criminal detention facilities. So anyone in federal prison, and again, this is just for people who have committed federal crimes, the Department of Justice is phasing out those contracts. Now, for those of you with good memories, you might remember that this has happened before. The Obama administration actually did the same thing in August 2016. The Trump administration, a few months later, ended up reversing that. So Obama administration says, we're going to phase out the private prisons, we're going to let the contracts expire, and we're going to transfer those prisoners somewhere else. Trump administration says, no, we need private prisons. We need that to be able to meet the needs of the federal prison system. So, again, another instance of executive orders directing our laws and rules and regulations and systems for dealing with criminal justice and our lives generally. So the Biden administration issued this executive order. A lot of people on the left are very happy, and I've seen a lot of libertarians really happy about this too. They are happy that the private prison system is being dealt a blow. Now, of course, this doesn't do anything to actually reduce the prison population of the United States. Most prisoners are held in state prisons, and the smaller fraction that are held in federal prisons, of those, only about 15% are held in private facilities. That was the last number I could find. I've heard 18% other places, but it's about 15%, around there. And on the state level, it's about 8%. We're going to get to some of the state level stuff in a bit. But 15% of prisoners are held in private prisons at the federal level for various reasons. And those prisoners, just to be clear, are not being let go. It's not like, oh, private prisons are closing, we're letting you go, you're going out. So to say that this is a move in favor of criminal justice reform is being a bit disingenuous. And the Biden executive order kind of signals that that's what they're doing here, is that they are working to further criminal justice reforms, and they talk about, we need to reform the system of mass incarceration, imposes significant costs and hardships on our societies and communities, and do not make us safer. To decrease incarceration levels, and I'm quoting now, we must reduce profit-based incentives to incarcerate by phasing out the federal government's reliance on privately operated criminal detention facilities. So that's a quote from the executive order, which I will post online if anyone wants to read. Again, many executive orders coming out of the Biden administration. So the executive order is claiming to do this, but again, it doesn't actually send anyone home. It doesn't actually make any significant changes to the criminal justice system. But I'll say that the end part of that we need to decrease profit-based incentives for keeping people imprisoned is something that I would have agreed with a couple years ago. I think actually Larry might agree with that statement, and he said some stuff on the show before. I don't know if he still says that. Maybe we'll have to see if he listens to this episode and talks about it tomorrow. But I used to agree with this. So the argument goes that we should not have a profit incentive for keeping people locked up. That it is fundamentally immoral for someone to make money off of keeping another human being in a cage. That is not something that we should have a profit motive for. It's not something that we should have anyone gaining from, because it's a terrible thing. We only keep people in prison because we have to, because they are a danger to society or they are facing a punishment. No one should profit from that. So that's one of the realms that even many libertarians would say that should stay within the realm of the government, within the realm of the state. That creating profit motives for this ends up creating a lot of bad incentives for these private prisons and the criminal justice system itself to keep more people incarcerated. Because the way many of these contracts are structured, the argument goes, is that if you keep extra bodies in the prison, that means more profit for you. So if these private prisons have various ways of finding infractions and other issues to keep people in their facility, then that creates a really dangerous incentive for, again, keeping people locked up indefinitely. That is the goal. If your contract is structured that way, if you want to be able to employ more people, employ more guards, for the executives of prison systems like Geo Group and CoreCivic to walk home with a ton of profit. That's the accusation. Now, I get that argument. I agreed with that argument for a while. And for a while, I would go on and say, like, yeah, private prisons, not a good use of where the market should be involved. But that's not the only way that we can structure the prison system. And furthermore, it is kind of also the way that the government-run prison system, man, I can't talk today. The government-run prison system is incentivized as well. There's a lot of incentives for correction officers' unions and executives at the county level and other aspects of the government-run prison system to disincentivize closing facilities, which would cut jobs. Towns don't want to see their prisons cut as well, because there are many towns in upstate, many of you listening maybe in one of these towns, that would be devastated by closing prisons. I recognize that. So those same incentives, it's not a direct profit motive, it's not a greedy capitalist walking away with it, but those same incentives to keep money coming into your town, to keep a facility open, to keep guards employed, those same incentives apply in the government sector as well. That there's still a reason for guard unions, towns, sheriff's departments to want to incarcerate more people for longer. We've created really perverse incentives, not just in the private system, but also in the government system to do this. And I think that if structured correctly, private prisons could be a good tool to help people lead good, productive lives after they get out of these facilities. If we structure this not on keeping people in prison, but getting people out and making sure they stay out by reducing recidivism, that's a way we can use private prisons to improve the outcomes of prisons. Again, this all depends on what you think the incentive of prison is. Do prisons exist to punish people, to keep them locked away forever, to keep them separated from society? because they're so dangerous? Or do prisons exist to get people's life back on track, to get them reformed, to make sure that they can go out and exist in society once again? And maybe that depends on the crime that they've committed and the type of prison it is. Maybe it's different for maximum security prison for mass murders than it is for a medium security prison where the idea is to get people out and functioning again. But I think at that level, private prisons could be a good tool to get more people back in society. And that is a noble goal. It's a goal that could save us money, that could keep us safer, and lead to a healthier society. All right, so when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about those incentives and a few other aspects of the executive order that leave a ton of stuff out. All right, thanks again for listening to us here on A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, yours today. If you want to participate in this conversation, you have thoughts on this, give us a call, 585-346-3000, 585-346-3000. We'll be back with more from A Free Solution in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
When you've been seriously injured in a car crash, you need a lawyer who knows how to beat the big insurance companies. Call me and I'll take them on so you can focus on your health and family.
Car crash, call Salino. Salino, call Salino. 888-2020.
Main Street, Rochester. A message from the National Police Association. It used to be that any able-bodied person would offer to assist a police officer in danger. Now, passers-by are more likely to take a video. There's a better use for your phone when an officer's in trouble. Call 911. Tell the operator where you are and what you see. Then, start your video to provide evidence later. To learn more about how you can assist law enforcement, visit nationalpolice.org. That's nationalpolice.org.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. We're talking about private prisons today. A new executive order coming out of the Biden administration that tells the Department of Justice not to renew contracts for private prisons. So is that a good thing? And can we structure private prisons in a way to increase incentives to reduce incentivism rather than the other way around? But it sounds like we have a caller on the line, Steve from Irondequoit. Steve, you with us?
I am. Hey, hi, Kevin.
Hello, Steve.
Wonderful show as usual.
Thank you, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I don't know if this plays into your to the topic or not. Wasn't there an accusation that our next president, Camilla, deliberately extended people's sentences in California because they were profiting from their cheap labor?
That is absolutely correct. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that too. So the accusation was that the prisoners in California, under either Kamala Harris's direction when she was the attorney general out in California, or at least the oversight of other attorneys general, and they wanted to keep more prisoners incarcerated and not allow them to be out on parole because it was cheap labor to put out the California fires. And the Department of Corrections, or whatever it's called out there, felt that they couldn't afford to put out the fires without keeping people imprisoned and paying them almost nothing. So yeah, that is a government-run system, because California is still, most of the prisons out there are still government-run. I know they're infamous for having a few private prisons, but this was not the case. This was the government-run prison system renting out prisoners for barely anything in order for them to save money. So these same bad incentives still exist, even in government-run systems.
So it wasn't just involuntary labor. They were actually putting them in situations that were dangerous.
Yeah, they were. And I don't know what the agreement is out there. I don't know enough about the situation to say, like, they were forced to do this, other than, like, they could do this and they got paid, like, less than $1 an hour to go and fight the fires out in California. And to add insult to injury, even with participating in putting out fires and often acting as heroes themselves, they're not able to become firefighters after they're released. So it's all terrible. It's not great. Steve, anything else on your mind?
No, that's it. I appreciate your taking the time to clear that up.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for calling in, Steve. Really appreciate that. Steve, and it sounds like that was Steve Beck, who is the current chair of the Monroe County Libertarian Party. So thank you so much for calling in, Steve. Really appreciate that. And bringing up that topic, because, again, there are lots of bad incentives for the government to keep people incarcerated, too, because the government, because of a nice little loophole in the 13th Amendment that says you can't be subject to involuntary servitude, slavery, except as punishment for a crime, the state, and I mean the state generally, the concept of the state, has taken that and said, okay, that means that we can force people to work for us at wages well below the minimum wage. You know, we're talking like 50 cents an hour type of stuff, sometimes even lower. And they can rent those people out to go and do different stuff. Sometimes it's just cleaning up things. It's fine, cleaning up the roads. Other times it's like making stuff in factories. In fact, we do it in New York State too. The hand sanitizer in New York State that was made with prison labor. If you remember that way back in, was it March, April, where Governor Cuomo was bragging about, look, we've produced this hand sanitizer, New York State strong, you know, we're making this stuff to save the state and make sure that the people of New York have all the hand sanitizer that they need. And you still see this stuff. If you go to any government building, you'll see the big pump bottle of New York State branded hand sanitizer that smells like old tequila and seems to make a mess on me every time I pump it, because I'm always expecting it to come out like gel, and it doesn't come out like gel. It just squirts out at you. And oh, cool. Made a mess of my shirt. Great. Smells terrible, I think. But that is made with prison labor. And the extent to which that is forced is debatable. But there are all sorts of bad incentives for the government. Again, it's unions working together to keep their people employed. And this is what unions do. This is what public sector unions do at every level, whether it's corrections officer unions, whether it's police unions or teachers unions. Their goal is to keep their people employed, to keep them highly compensated, and to make sure that they are not fired, or at least have due process for getting fired. So that's the generous, good faith argument for what unions do. But on the taxpayer end, their incentives are not necessarily aligned with what is good for us as taxpayers and us as a society, if the incentive is to continue paying more corrections officers than are needed, or to keep prisons open when it isn't necessary. And in order to keep more prisons open and to keep more guards employed, you either have to have more prisoners to justify that, or you just have more guards per prisoner, right? You just kind of lower the ratios a bit. And again, this isn't to say anything bad about the corrections officers, many of whom, and we got to learn about a lot of this and a lot of the struggles of corrections officers during Larry Sharp's campaign, which I had worked on. A lot of people they really want to help folks, right? Most people aren't out to be nasty. They want to keep society safe. And for the people who mean well in prisons, a lot of them want to make sure that they get out and they can be successful. A lot of folks want that. They end up with a siege mentality a lot of times. And again, if you are a corrections officer, you want to call and weigh in on this, give us a call, 585-346-3000. I'm sympathetic to that. But again, in the same way I talk about teachers' unions having bad incentives that don't necessarily align with the incentives of parents and children, I think the same thing about some corrections officers' unions as well. And speaking of which, too, speaking of bad incentives, too, one of the arguments that I've seen against private prisons, and I promise I'll get to the actual reforms in the next segment, but one of the arguments I heard about that is that they tend to profit off of prisoners communicating with their family. So there's a story I heard about. There's a prison company called JPay, I think it was called, and they were charging $10 for, video conference services, right? So kind of an expensive amount. If you want to do that, is that plus a cost per minute fee, as I understood it. Well, the same thing happened in the Monroe County Jail, which kind of became a thing. If you were a prisoner in the county jail up here, you were charged $1.85 to make a phone call for the first minute, and then 10 cents a minute after that. And the county jail profited $870,000 off of this, so not a small amount of money. So it became a thing, is the county profiting off of prisoners who are just trying to communicate with the outside world, stay connected with their friends and family, or do any other legitimate business they had to do? It's a fair question. Again, same thing. The government prisons, includes jails, have an incentive to raise more revenue in whatever way they can. You could argue that this is justified, but they do have an incentive to raise revenue, to keep people in, as long as they have the resources to do it, and to grow their departments, grow the salaries for the people under them. It's not like they're walking away with profit in the same way that private prisons do, but I don't see how there's an ethical or substantial difference between what private prisons do and government prisons do. And I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way. Again, give me a call, leave a comment if you think that I'm totally off base here. But if the outcome is the same, if you're still profiting off of prisoners trying to communicate with their family and you think that's unethical, well, okay, let's apply that ethical standard to government prisons and private prisons. If there is an incentive to keep more people incarcerated, and there is definitely one at the government level, then that is not any more ethical than the contract structures of private prisons, which I do agree is actually a problem. I don't like that. I don't like that there is an incentive for keeping people locked up. But actually, it was Alex Merced who got me to think about this in a different way. I was having a discussion with him about private prisons. We can do this in a better way. It doesn't have to be this way. We can actually use innovation. And there is a difference between true privatization and innovation in a market and government-imposed contracts that keep the bad incentives of the old system in place. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We'll be back in just a few minutes. If you want to participate, call in 585-346-3000. Talk to you in a few.
Don't be muzzled. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. Well, mostly cloudy skies, just a couple of flurries out there. Temps in the teens and low 20s. A bit colder on Thursday, mostly cloudy, maybe a snow shower or two. Temps staying in the teens and low 20s. On Friday, watch for some lake effect snow in the morning, bitter cold. Temps single digits, teens, wind chill sub-zero on Friday. I'm Rich Cadilia, WYSL.
It seems anyone can build a website these days using all sorts of free tools and services. But do those websites actually get results? And how do you even measure it? Nothing But Net Solutions knows there's so much more to an online presence today. Websites are just one piece of the puzzle. Search engine optimization, pay-per-click campaigns, email campaigns, social media, mobile readiness, and responsive design, plus analytics are all part of it. Nothing But Net Solutions will affordably simplify the choices for you, providing a wide range of internet development and marketing services, all under one umbrella. Customized to each situation, Nothing But Net Solutions will be there with you through every step, concerned about only one thing: results. 14 years in business and counting. That's what they really care about. Visit nbnsolutions.com or call 585-298-9510. That's 585-298-9510.
Because your future is worth it. MGM Associates Insurance. Proudly serving the region since 1984, MGM can meet your coverage needs, ranging from home, condo, and auto, all the way to specialized policies for business, workers' comp, to limo and taxi insurance, and coverage for tech professionals like IT specialists. They can also help lead you through the confusing maze in the new world of health insurance coverage and options. MGM Associates is large enough to serve you, but small enough to care, so you don't have to wait in line on some 800 number to get prompt personal attention. MGM Associates is the only winner of the National Best Practices Award 5 times in a row. MGM is proud to support veterans groups, including Heroes Home Advantage. For your personal, business, home, or professional insurance needs, put the experience of MGM Associates Insurance on your team. Locally and proudly owned at 1745 Penfield Road in Penfield. 381-7008 or mgminsure.com. An associate of Finger Lakes Fire and Casualty, Route 227 in Trumansburg, New York.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax.
As we enter 2021, we are filled with hope for what is to come and gratitude for what has already passed.
With our Lord by our side, this year will be filled with joy, love, happiness, and success. Let's not allow 2020 to define who we are. Let's tackle 2021 head on and get rid of the taxes today.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal to finish what God has started and put the IRS debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
WYSL. Camp Good Days is once again, with the help of Vanderstein Toyota and Toyota USA, hosting a car raffle. Tickets are 1 for $20, 3 for $50. If you win, you receive a brand new 2021 Toyota Corolla SE. All the proceeds from the car raffle benefit the children and families of Camp Good Days. The winning ticket will be pulled on April 15th, 2021. Get your tickets now by calling the Camp Good Days office at 585-624-5555 or by visiting campgooddays.org.
Eisen Rochester is a full-service ophthalmology office, and we specialize in general ophthalmology, taking care of people from childhood to adult and seniors. We do general eye exams. We specialize in cataract surgery, corneal surgery, and disease, as well as LASIK surgery. We also have a full-service optical shop and contact lens fitting service.
Visit Eyes on Rochester at 1157 Fairport Road. Remember Scotty's Detail Auto Body for all of your body paint and collision repairs. And also remember, it's still the collision shop of your choice during that unfortunate time. Scotty's Detail Auto Body, Route 15 East Avon, just a quarter mile north of I-390, exit 9.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Shout out down the line to our friends over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot down in the Southern Tier, and our friends listening online. We appreciate you all being here, participating in the conversation, commenting, things like that. And speaking of participating in the conversation, it sounds like we have a caller on the line. We have Steve from Rochester who wants to talk about, the corrections officers unions. And Steve, I understand you have some family who is involved in that work.
Yeah, and I guess I want to clarify, because I heard you mention something about, like overloading the number of guards per, or if they have too many, or if it's, their incentive to employ more and keep more. And just want you to understand, I don't know when the last time you actually talked to a guard, but they have cut staffing. They've cut what they're allowed to do. They've cut, they've created a more dangerous environment, the top has, for the guards. I hope, I want people to understand that what the top down has done is it made the guards' life more difficult, more dangerous. When they used to send out 20 guys to a yard for 200 prisoners, now they send 5.
Yeah, and actually at the federal level, there were a lot of issues with this too, where they were actually using like nursing staff to go and like deal with prisoner issues in a way that was totally inappropriate, which is part of the incentive for expanding the use of private prisons to reduce overcrowding and to reduce staffing issues. In New York State, there's also an interesting issue where that is what I hear from the prison guard populations, but the prisoner corrections officers, but from what I understand, that in the new set of prison closures that are going to happen in the next few months, there's going to be 3 more prisons closing in New York State, Gowanda, Watertown, and part of the Clinton Correctional Facility, that all the employees there will be offered other jobs. So it's not like their jobs are getting cut. They're getting transferred to other facilities, as I'm understanding that.
Some, as I'm understanding, yes, some are, some won't, but all the prisoners still have to have somewhere to go. So you can shift the people. What you're going to end up doing is overcrowding a different facility. Do you understand? You can, close the 3 facilities, but all those people end up somewhere. So what did you really save? You might have created a worse situation somewhere else, and you hurt a community.
From my understanding is that they're closing these facilities because there's a reduction in the overall prison population because of criminal justice reform and just a few other things that have caused, until this year, crime to go down, which supposedly is going to save $89 million. And I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to actually understand this issue. I'm not trying to have an argument with you, Steve.
No, I know.
Yeah, I want to sound hostile because I am empathetic to this, and I grew up in an area near Marcy, which has a big prison there. I went to college just south of Auburn, which is always anxious about their prison being open because they realize how essential that is for that town. And to me, that creates a bad incentive to keep more people incarcerated, even though we do need prisons for certain things. If that is the lifeblood of the town, they're put in a very precarious position. And I'd rather see Governor Cuomo make it easier for these towns to diversify, open up, and have businesses thrive in these towns so they're not so dependent on a single industry.
Oh, I understand that, yeah. And if you could figure out a way to educate and get these people back out, some of them, some you never will. It's just reality of life. But, if you had programs to get them back out in society, I understand it. I think we'd be much better. But the problem is, as with many things, the top is like a mushroom. It's top heavy. The money's top heavy. And what it does is it really puts the people in the bottom in a precarious position. That's all I'm saying. You talk about incentive. The incentive's not to help out the lower level or the guard population, the ones that are actually doing the work. all that is incentivizing to keep the ones at the top very well off.
On that, I can agree, and I will kind of change how I talk about this because of that. Because I'm not trying to demonize like the guards themselves, the correction officers doing the on the ground work. I respect what a lot of them do, but yeah, you're right. Some of the bad incentive. My kind of overall point was that some of the bad incentives that exist for private prisons also exist for some of the government prisons as well. And you're right. A lot of times it's the people on top, the politicians, and the executives in the government-run prisons who are walking away with a lot of money from this, and that's a shame.
Yeah. All right, sir. Hey, you have a great day. I'm glad I got to talk to you real quick.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in, Steve. I really appreciate that. And it sounds like we have another caller on the line as well. We have Todd from Syracuse on. Todd, what's on your mind?
Yes. Hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Yeah, you were just talking about how they're closing a couple jails here, and that those correction officers are going to end up in a, they're going to be reassigned to a different location. Well, that's, like you'd think that there would be more correction officers than needed, but, I worked in corrections, and they were mandating us like 3 times a week, so we were having to work 16-hour days. So even with those closings of those facilities, my guess is we're still going to be a little bit understaffed.
Okay, so and just so I'm understanding, like you feel like you're understaffed now, and these closures are going to like exacerbate that issue, and you guys are still working kind of long shifts.
They're actually gonna even out kind of the deficiencies that we had. We're still going to be slightly understaffed, but what they were doing is they were mandating that we stay for 16 hours, and that was happening consecutively. Like some of us were having to work 16 hours 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow, that's a long shift. I mean, are you guys fighting for shorter hours?
Yeah, it was. Well, we were working 16 hours, and then we had to be back for our shift, which is only 8 hours away from when we got out. It kind of takes a toll on you.
Yeah, I'd imagine doing that a few times is gonna run you down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Todd, is there anything else that I should know, like to add context to this situation that the listeners should know about, how either private prisons or how kind of the shifts in the prison system in general are impacting people like yourself?
Well, I think that there's it's definitely a challenging job, that's for sure. But if I think these closures are definitely going to help staffing levels and stuff, and hopefully they'll definitely get something together as far as having the programs and stuff like that. I know you were talking about that earlier, having programs and stuff that'll get these guys out, the ones that should be out, and the ones that should stay in, that definitely have some type of way of separating them, because that's the biggest problem that I'm seeing now, is that, there's these guys that come in and they want to make a lifestyle of it, and all they're doing is extorting from the guys that they just want to go in, they pay for their mistake, and then leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, you need to be able to tell the difference between those folks and be able to create paths out for people who don't want that life, who just want
exactly.
Yeah. Wow, no, that's some really excellent insight, Todd. I really appreciate your call, and I appreciate you contributing to the conversation here today.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So thanks so much for the calls, everyone. So thank you, Steve, and thank you, Todd, for calling in today and giving us some additional insight on what's happening here, because, I have limited knowledge too. I try to do my research, but I'm always going to miss some stuff here, and adding that additional context to what's going on the ground is incredibly important. And, I'm thinking about this again. What are the incentives for both private prisons and for government-run facilities? How do we make sure that we are doing our best so, as Todd mentioned, the people who want to get out, who want to create a life for themselves, have the opportunity to do so? And can we structure prisons a bit differently so that both government-run facilities and private-owned prisons, which make up about 8% of the state level prison population. So both of them have incentives to make sure that that group of people who want to get out and live in society again can be successful. It is possible. We can do it. We just got to think about it in a new way. All right, so thank you so much for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back with one more segment in just a few minutes. And if you want to call in, participate in the conversation, again, 585-346-3000. Thank you for being here today. Talk to you in a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, "He is my refuge and my fortress, for he will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease."
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. And we did get a comment online, too, from Jericho. Said private prisons make up less than 10% of prisons. We have a long way to go. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm just going to assume that this comment's directed towards, like, if you are concerned about the problem of mass incarceration, if you are concerned that we have too many people in jail, that's more than necessary, abolishing private prisons ain't going to do that. Because, yeah, you're right. It's only a small portion of the prison population. There are some issues with private prisons. I get it, that there are instances of abuse and malnourishment and all the stuff that happens, which also happens at state-run prisons sometimes, too. There are bad people that can get in systems anywhere, and the goal is to stop those people when they do bad things. And with private prisons, you can yank their contract after doing that. With state-run prisons, it's a bit more complicated. But, you know, if it does happen, then anyone involved should be fired immediately. That's what should happen. If you're abusing people, that's not okay. Let's talk about solutions to this, too. Actually, one more note, too, on the executive order. It is incomplete. If you are concerned about private prisons, I apparently it does not include immigration detention centers, which a lot of people on the left are like, oh my goodness, these privately run detention centers, they're profiting so much off of Trump's immigration policies. Well, guess what? That stuff, it's still happening. The Biden administration is still doing it. They were doing it during the Obama administration too. For now, as I understand it, it is still okay for private run facilities to house immigrants who are facing deportation. So it does not complete that section of private prison reform either for the type of folks looking for that type of thing. But let's go to incentives. So imagine we structure contracts for both private prisons and for government-run prisons a little bit differently. And we create incentives for individuals and for companies or leadership at these prisons to make sure that people get out and have a successful life. Now, imagine we have a system where for inside the prison system, for every prisoner who, doesn't commit an act of violence, who is able to successfully complete their term in prison without incident, what if there were bonuses for that? And I know you can't prevent that, but like if you're able to keep people safe, keep people not hurt, great. Find a way to incentivize that. Find a way to do it without creating bad incentives for hiding incidents as well. But find a way to make sure that you reduce violence in the prisons that you're managing. This might not be max security prisons. This might not be for the type of people who I get want to be in jail is a strong word, but like just maybe aren't ready to go out and participate in society. But for the type of people who want to just do their time, like Todd was talking about, get out, get back into society, get back to their families, find a job. So imagine you have those incentives. And imagine you have an incentive for, again, maybe the people who are working directly with the prisoners and the warden or the executives. They get out and they stay out of prison. They don't go back to jail for 5 years, for 2 years, whatever it is, some sort of incentive. Because the recidivism rate for a lot of our prison systems is high, that people tend to go back to jail. And sometimes it's because they commit another crime, and sometimes it's because they commit a technical violation. They're out on parole, and they don't show up to a meeting. And sometimes something as simple as that, sometimes it's something a little bit more intense and justified, but there are a lot of ways people can get sent back to prison that need to be looked at separately. We've talked about that a little bit. But let's talk about someone who does what they're asked. They make their meetings with their parole officers. They go out, and if nothing else, they don't commit any more offenses that sends them back to prison. Okay, if you create someone who, if you get someone who comes out of the prison system, and they can do that, can we create a profit incentive to making sure that happens? To making sure that the people coming out of your jail, if you're a private run facility, are going to have the tools to go out and be successful in society, to go out and get a job, to go out and find housing, to go out and stay out of jail? Can you create incentives for private prisons to want to make that happen? We don't do that now. The incentives are to keep people in jail because you fill those beds, that's what gives you money for your contract. And you hear all these horror stories too related to that, is like they have like minimum bed requirements that regardless of how many people are in some of these private prisons, that they, will get paid for 80% capacity no matter what. So that's terrible stuff. That's not a good incentive. It's not a good incentive to want to keep more people in jail. Let's reverse those incentives. Let's say, again, the people working on the ground get bonuses, the corrections officers themselves, and the company can get a bonus for that. And in the end, that would probably be cheaper for the government to pay for. Because if you can get people out and they're having a job and they're paying taxes, you don't have to pay for this massive prison infrastructure in order to keep people in cages, which is terrible on both an ethical level. You don't want to do that. I get there are reasons why that happens, but you don't want to do that. And just terrible from a societal level. We want people out. We want people productive. We want people not hurting other people. So create incentives for private prisons to make sure that when someone gets out of their facility, they're going to be ready. They're ready to be out, to get a job, to find a house, maybe reconnect to their family if that's appropriate. Whatever it is, set them up with the tools to be successful and then give them a financial incentive to make sure that they have the tools to do that. I think that we can rethink how we do that. And I think it can happen at the government level too. Again, we can find ways to create bonuses for other people. And I know some people are going to argue we don't need the bonuses, whatever. Just give them good pay. No, let's try this. This is what market innovation is supposed to be about. Can something like this work out? Does it work? Because maybe it doesn't. Maybe creating these incentives doesn't give enough reason to lower recidivism rates. Maybe the type of prisoners who are there is just going to be difficult to do that with, or we haven't figured out the method. But I would think it would be appropriate to try. So it's for these reasons where I say private prisons themselves are not the problem. The problem is mass incarceration. Private prisons aren't the only cause behind that. There are a lot of reasons why we have mass incarceration. And if you really want to reduce the jail populations, if that's your thing, we need to look at ending the drug war. We need to look at reducing sentences overall. I mean, we could look at what some European countries are doing. If that's what you want to do, I'm not making that full argument, but that's what people want to do, keep people in jail longer for even violent crimes. That's something you could look at, finding ways to get people out. Okay, so if that's your goal, can we use the profit incentive to do that? Is it ethical for people to profit off of keeping someone incarcerated if they come out better for it, if they're kept in jail for less time for it, if we improve society for it? And I would say yes. So for that reason, I've totally flipped my position on private prisons, because I used to be of the position that this is totally unethical, this is wrong, it should never happen, and I started thinking about it in a new way. There's never going to be a free market in prisons. It doesn't work like that. This is always government. Even private prisons is a little bit of a misnomer. It's just private companies contracting what the government wants to do. But if we can think about it in a new way, if we can provide the right incentives instead of the incentives that encourage people to keep folks in jail longer, we can have a better system. That's what I'm proposing. Maybe that's bold. Maybe that's outside the box thinking. Maybe y'all ain't ready for that. But it's something we can start thinking about. So as much as I get what the Biden administration is trying to do, I think it misses the mark. And I think it misses an opportunity to tackle the real issues of the criminal justice system. And this will end up being the small little smidgen of virtue signaling that distracts from the real, substantive, actual issues at the core of our criminal justice system. And that's what we're probably going to get 4 years of. Here, we did this thing. Isn't that good enough? No, it's not. No, if you're serious about this stuff, we want to actually talk about this stuff, we're going to need something a little bit more. And having the extra tools to do that, including private prisons in some cases, might be a worthwhile discussion. All right. But if you have any additional thoughts on that, leave me a comment. I'll check out the comments online or send me an email. contact@afreesolution.com. Would love to talk to you more about this. This is an interesting issue, and I appreciate all the callers we got in today. All right, thanks so much for joining us here on A Free Solution. Larry will be in tomorrow, and I will be back on Friday. Talk to you then.